The conversation around the Ravens this postseason has taken on layers that go far beyond wins and losses, and it starts with how the broader landscape of the playoffs has unfolded. As games wrapped up in dramatic fashion and unexpected results reshaped expectations, the spotlight once again shifted toward the league's star quarterbacks and how their performances are framed when everything is on the line. Baltimore found itself indirectly pulled into that discussion, not because the Ravens were on the field in that specific divisional matchup, but because the way certain narratives formed immediately felt familiar to anyone who has followed Lamar Jackson's career closely. Watching the divisional round play out, it was impossible to ignore how chaotic the postseason has been. Overtime games, late mistakes, momentum swings, and seasons ending on a single play have defined this stretch. One particular loss sent shockwaves through the conference, as a team many believed had its clearest path yet to the Super Bowl came up short. The absence of several elite quarterbacks across the bracket made the opportunity feel even bigger, which only amplified the reaction when that opportunity slipped away in such dramatic fashion in that game. Turnovers played a central role, and the quarterback at the center of it all had a night filled with extremes. There were moments of brilliance, throws that reminded everyone why he is considered among the league's elite. But there were also costly errors that directly influenced the outcome. Missed opportunities, including a wide-open receiver in the end zone late in regulation, shifted the entire trajectory of the game and opened the door for overtime. In any postseason context, that combination of highs and lows usually leads to intense scrutiny. What stood out, though, was not that criticism existed, but how quickly it softened and redirected. Conversations moved toward officiating decisions, unfortunate circumstances, and sympathy for the quarterback's emotional response after the loss. National coverage leaned into understanding and empathy, highlighting leadership, accountability, and the visible weight of disappointment. None of that is inherently wrong. In fact, a quarterback taking responsibility and showing genuine emotion is often praised as a sign of maturity and competitiveness. The issue, from a Ravens perspective, is how starkly different that tone has been when Lamar Jackson finds himself in similar situations. Over the years, Baltimore fans have watched postseason losses dissected in ways that seem to funnel blame toward Lamar almost by default. Context often gets stripped away, and individual plays are isolated without the surrounding circumstances that influence them. Drops, protection breakdowns, questionable play calling, and defensive lapses fade into the background while the microscope zooms in on the quarterback alone. This contrast reignited debates that have never really gone away. The question is not whether Lamar Jackson has played flawless football in January, because he has not, and very few quarterbacks have. The question is why the margin for grace appears so much thinner for him when Lamar struggles. The narrative often hardens quickly, turning into something definitive about who he is as a player, rather than a snapshot of a single game or moment. Former players weighing in on the discussion added more fuel to the fire, especially when comparisons were drawn directly between star quarterbacks who have yet to win a championship. The point made was simple on the surface: if a quarterback plays poorly and commits turnovers, the loss belongs to him. That standard should apply evenly. But the response from Ravens fans was not about avoiding criticism, it was about consistency. Lamar has been criticized plenty, often harshly, even in games where he carried an undermanned offense or produced historically dominant individual performances that still ended in defeat. Looking back at some of those playoff games, context matters. There have been postseason outings where Lamar accounted for an overwhelming majority of Baltimore's offense, throwing for hundreds of yards while also leading the team in rushing. In those same games, injuries decimated key skill positions, limiting what the offense could realistically do, yet the lasting memory for many outside observers is a single interception or turnover, frozen in time as proof of a broader narrative. This is where frustration builds. Ravens fans are not arguing that Lamar has never made mistakes in big moments. They are arguing that mistakes made by others are often absorbed into his legacy, while similar situations elsewhere are treated as unfortunate team failures. When a pass hits a receiver in the hands and falls incomplete, the debate somehow circles back to ball placement. When play calling abandons the run in critical moments, the quarterback still shoulders the blame for the outcome. Meanwhile, in other markets, the conversation tends to branch outward. Defensive struggles are highlighted, supporting cast errors are acknowledged, coaching decisions are questioned. The quarterback remains part of the discussion, but not the sole focus. That difference in framing is subtle at times, but over multiple seasons, it becomes impossible to ignore. Another layer to this conversation is how quickly criticism of Lamar can turn personal. Football analysis gives way to commentary about his style of play, his durability, or his perceived limitations, often ignoring the tangible results he has produced, including multiple Most Valuable Player awards. These are not honors handed out lightly. Yet even those accomplishments are sometimes minimized in the postseason narrative. The irony is that Lamar himself has never shied away from accountability after tough losses. He speaks openly about needing to be better, about learning from mistakes, about growing as a leader. That same accountability is often praised when displayed by other quarterbacks, framed as a positive trait and a building block for future success. When Lamar does it, it is frequently treated as confirmation of failure rather than a step toward growth. All of this matters because the Ravens are entering an offseason filled with important decisions. The head coaching situation has layers of complexity, and the direction the organization chooses will shape how Baltimore attacks its remaining championship window. Evaluating postseason shortcomings honestly is necessary, but that evaluation has to be balanced and grounded in reality, not driven by narratives that ignore context. As the league continues to search for the next championship quarterback, outside of the usual dynastic names, the comparison game will only intensify. None of the quarterbacks at the center of this debate have hoisted a Lombardi trophy yet, which makes the rush to definitive judgments even more puzzling. Championships are the ultimate measure, but they are also team accomplishments, influenced by roster construction, health, coaching, and timing. For the Ravens, the focus should remain on building an environment where Lamar Jackson does not have to be perfect to win. No quarterback should. The postseason has once again shown how thin the margin is, and how quickly games can swing on a handful of plays. Recognizing that reality and applying it evenly across the league is the only way these conversations can move beyond frustration and toward meaningful analysis. As that broader debate continues to swirl, it inevitably ties back to where the Ravens stand right now as an organization, because postseason conversations are not just about perception, they are about what comes next. Baltimore is in a moment where the margins feel thinner than ever, and every weakness that surfaced during the playoff run has been magnified by what other teams around the league have shown in recent weeks. Watching these games back, it becomes clear that the gap is not about talent alone, but about execution, adaptability, and how consistently a team can respond when the initial plan starts to unravel. One of the biggest takeaways from this postseason is how quickly games can shift when opponents force you out of your comfort zone. The Ravens have built an identity around physicality, tempo control, and putting defenses in conflict with Lamar Jackson at the center of it all. When that formula works, it looks overwhelming. But when opponents find ways to disrupt timing, clog rushing lanes early, or force longer third downs, Baltimore has at times struggled to adjust quickly enough. Those moments did not always decide games on their own, but in January football, even brief stretches of inefficiency can become decisive offensively. The lack of consistent answers when the initial script stalls has been a recurring theme. There have been drives where everything flows smoothly, where Lamar is decisive, receivers create separation, and the run game sets the tone. Then there are stretches where penalties, missed assignments, or negative plays derail momentum and put the offense behind schedule against elite competition. Climbing out of those holes repeatedly becomes increasingly difficult, especially when the opposing offense capitalizes on short fields or quick changes in possession. The passing game, in particular, has drawn scrutiny not because of a lack of ability, but because of inconsistency. There have been times when route combinations fail to stress defenses vertically and horizontally at the same time, allowing coverage to sit on underneath throws or collapse passing lanes. When that happens, Lamar is often forced to hold the ball longer or create outside of structure, which can lead to spectacular plays, but also increases the risk of turnovers or stalled drives. That balance between creativity and efficiency is delicate, and it becomes even more fragile in the postseason. Defensively, the Ravens have shown flashes of dominance, but they have also been vulnerable in key situations. Explosive plays allowed at inopportune times have kept opponents alive when Baltimore seemed poised to take control. Communication breakdowns in the secondary, missed tackles in space, and an inability to consistently generate pressure without blitzing have all appeared at different points. None of these issues are new, but the playoffs have a way of exposing them repeatedly. Until they are addressed, special teams, often a strength for Baltimore, have also been part of the conversation. Field position matters immensely in tight games, and small lapses can swing momentum. A return that breaks contain, a coverage unit that arrives a step late, or a missed opportunity to pin an opponent deep can alter the flow of a quarter. In the regular season, teams can sometimes recover from those mistakes. In the postseason, they linger. All of this feeds directly into the discussion around the head coaching situation, which has quietly become more complicated. Stability has long been one of Baltimore's defining traits, but stability also brings expectations. When a team consistently reaches the playoffs but falls short of its ultimate goal, the questions shift from whether the approach works to whether it can take the next step. That does not mean panic or sweeping change is inevitable, but it does mean every decision is examined through a sharper lens. The challenge for the Ravens is identifying what adjustments are necessary without losing what has made them successful. Coaching continuity can be a strength, especially when paired with a franchise quarterback in his prime. At the same time, innovation and self-scouting are critical. Opponents spend all year studying tendencies, and the postseason often becomes a chess matchup. Who can evolve fastest under pressure? Falling back on familiar answers is comfortable, but comfort rarely wins championships. Another layer to the coaching conversation is how responsibility is distributed when things go wrong. Play calling, game management, and situational decisions are all part of the equation. There have been moments in recent playoff games where the Ravens appeared hesitant to lean fully into what they do best, or where adjustments came later than expected. Those moments fuel debate because they sit at the intersection of trust, philosophy, and execution. What complicates matters further is that the Ravens are not far off. This is not a team searching for an identity or hoping to stumble into relevance. This is a roster with elite talent on both sides of the ball, and a quarterback who has already proven he can carry an offense over the course of a season. That proximity to greatness makes shortcomings feel heavier because the path forward is not obvious, but it is also not out of reach. Watching other teams advance has only intensified that feeling. Seeing offenses simplify under pressure, defenses tighten up in the red zone, and coaching staffs make bold decisions reinforces the idea that small edges matter. The Ravens have those edges at times, but sustaining them across for quarters against top competition remains the hurdle. As the off-season approaches, these conversations will not fade, they will evolve, shifting from what went wrong to how Baltimore responds. Personnel decisions, schematic tweaks, and leadership choices will all be viewed through the lens of recent playoff disappointments, and hovering over all of it will be the ongoing narrative around Lamar Jackson, his legacy, and how fairly his performances are judged. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. In the swirling world of NFL rumors, few stories have generated as much chatter as the alleged internal turmoil surrounding the Baltimore Ravens coaching situation. According to reports that have yet to be officially confirmed, the team's sudden decision to part ways with head coach John Harbaugh has left fans and analysts alike scrambling for explanations. The move, widely considered shocking given Harbaugh's long tenure and past successes, has sparked a wave of speculation about what could possibly come next for the storied franchise. Prominent sports commentator Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back when weighing in on the situation, branding the Ravens front office as amateurish and accusing them of firing their head coach without any viable plan B in place. Smith's scathing commentary suggests that the team may now face an uphill battle, not only in finding a suitable replacement, but in maintaining stability within a roster that has thrived under Harbaugh's leadership for years. This is not how professional organizations operate, Smith reportedly said, adding that the move smacks of desperation rather than a calculated strategy. Inside sources hint at a flurry of potential candidates being considered, though none appear to have emerged as the clear frontrunner. The speculation ranges from established NFL figures with deep playoff experience to up-and-coming coordinators hoping to make their mark. Yet the lack of transparency from the Ravens front office has only fueled rumors that the decision may have been made hastily, possibly in response to pressure from ownership or internal disagreements that have never been made public. Fans on social media are torn between disbelief and concern, with some praising the boldness of the decision, and others warning that the franchise risks entering a period of instability. Analysts point out that even with a strong roster, leadership transitions at the coaching level can have far-reaching consequences for team chemistry, draft strategy, and long-term planning. As the rumor mill continues to churn, questions loom. Who will step into the void? Can the Ravens maintain their competitive edge? And perhaps most importantly, did the organization truly think through the ramifications before making such a headline-grabbing move? For now, all that is certain is that the NFL world is watching Baltimore with keen interest, waiting to see if this gamble will pay off or become a cautionary tale in professional football history. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.